So we did it. We've rigged everything up again after some technical issues. So we're all set to go. In theory, we should have 3 cameras rolling, 2 in the back, 1 in the front.
The red lights are on, so that's, I did my job.
The red lights are on and flashing, and we're currently sitting outside the Ella building, I believe it's called, which is the headquarters for the University of Arizona MBA, waiting for Hope to come and join us. Ignacio is going to catch up with us a little bit later, but we're really excited to have Hope join us and drive around for a little bit, come and pick Ignacio up.
We really have no idea what's going to happen.
We don't. This is new for everybody. And really excited. I think, where we start with Hope before we get Ignacio with the researchers, maybe what drew her to credit unions, what drew her to Filene.
Yeah.
So
I'm such a nerd. We read through all this exciting research, and I read through a 30-page white paper and got my notes here, got all my questions written down. I got some extra notes, some little details.
This is going to be hard-hitting journalism right here, like you've never seen it before.
Yeah.
So,
all the fake news stories going around, it will literally be like nobody's ever seen, at least in the last 6 months.
This might actually be accurate. This is based on research with a really credible professor from the University of Arizona, and I see her there. So, Brian, can you wave out the window or something? That'd be great.
Is that's why you brought me?
Oh, she's coming. She's seen us. She's good.
She's playing it really cool though. Look at that.
Just kind of.
She's like, all my rides here.
Yeah, she's like,
like we're her parents.
We're like the worst Uber ever. Yes.
This is a very big car.
I know. Hey, Hope, how's it going?
It's going.
It's great. So there's a mic there for you if you wouldn't mind miking up. So Hope, thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be pretty conversational. I said Brian will probably lead a lot of the conversation just because I don't want to kill us.
I read all of the research too.
Oh, okay. That was also a reason why you were just...
Yeah. Well, I actually gave him the research, like, you need to read this.
I like that he tried to give a real good reason, because you were like, I don't want us to die.
Yeah, I don't want us to die.
So we just got this guy to come in.
James?
Yeah, exactly. Could you give us a little bit of background on kind of who you are and your role at the university, and then what kind of brought you to Filene?
So I'm a professor in marketing, and I got my degree at UC Irvine, and I ended up at Temple University, where I worked on some finance-related supply chain stuff, and I've always been a consumer researcher, so this made sense to try to think of how companies can do things better for consumers. And then came to here, to University of Arizona, and now I'm a professor, which means I guess I aged into this. Hopefully it's also the research, but that's kind of how I feel about it. Maybe I just got old. And then now I run the MBA program, so it's like...
How does the credit union experience tie in? Like, what appeals to you about credit unions? Why aren't you just helping Fargo?
Right.
I'll bleep that out.
You can keep it for all I care. So I grew up in the credit unions. When I was a kid, my parents were members of what was called Octafaku, the Orange County Teachers Federated Credit Union. And
credit unions always have the best names.
Love to say Octafaku because it sounded just a little bit naughty.
Yeah.
The reason I got excited about them, they were with me on all my milestones, and that's how I learned about financial responsibility. But it really wasn't until my father passed, and I watched the difference between a credit union and a bank and how they treated my mother. So because we had always gone into the credit union, we had personal relationships beyond just professional relationships. When my father passed, they came with a casserole to talk to my mom about the kind of next steps for her in terms of moving the finances and make sure that everything was still working. And I thought, that is not something you would see with a bank.
Right.
So we've always been credit union people.
So Hope, I'm just intrigued as to kind of how's your experience been? You've been to a couple of Big Bright Minds with us now, and we've had more than a single publication come from the amazing research that you do. And tell us a little bit about your experience with Ignacio and how he came involved with all of this.
Well, credit union people are always the nicest people. The Filene people are amazing. I think you must hire only nice people. And I don't know how you do it, because I could definitely, if we could get the secret sauce on that, everybody would be hiring the same people.
I think there's only 7 or 8 of them, and that's why, and Filene just got them all.
Oh, there's a finite number and somehow they got them all.
Right, yeah, there's just, so it's hopeless for the rest of us.
That's a bummer. That's our practice field, so we'll see some soccer games play there.
Soccer is a terrible sport.
No,
Nothing
it's a
happens.
wonderful sport.
They run a lot.
They run a lot.
Like back and forth.
So I'm intrigued as to how Ignacio and you crossed paths and how he came on this journey with Filene and this research with you.
So Ignacio is from the Canary Islands. He's Spanish, and he came to the United States to get a master's degree and look at the potential of possibly getting a PhD. Came to the University of Arizona and did our Master's in Marketing. He excelled. He broke all of our curves in the Master's in Marketing program. He's very much about pro-social issues, and so when he heard about the research I was doing with Filene, he was very excited. Crowdsourced funding, as he would call it, is something that excites him, and non-exploitive banking is a noble cause.
Yes.
So he was like, I'm in. What do I do? Put me in, coach.
That's great. So again, before we pick up our Spanish friend,
Yes.
I know you both worked very heavily on the kind of the latest research, Millennial Money Chatter. We've not even said that yet. We've not even said...
What is it?
Millennial Money Chatter.
Is that like Gen X?
No, it's the name of the research paper.
Oh, okay.
You read it.
Uh-huh.
We've just not said that phrase yet. You're really helping.
It's called trolling.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Trolling me in the car.
Was trolling part of the linguistic study that you guys did? I don't think we covered trolling.
I don't think we did.
I don't think trolling really applies to finances.
He's not even looking. I'm about to run a kid over. No, it's fine.
He's texting.
He's
We'll
Snapchatting.
figure it out.
It's fine. We figured it out. I know you both worked heavily on this. We'll probably ask Ignacio the same question, but what was the biggest insight you found? Like, what was the biggest thing that surprised you once you kind of got all the data in and the results back and you were kind of putting it together?
So I think the most surprising thing is that a lot of people's impression of millennials as entitled, it's inaccurate, it's inadequate, it's just simply not true. Millennials that are speaking about money are revealing a lot about how they feel. They're afraid, they're nervous, they're not entitled, they don't imagine things are coming to them, they can't imagine how things will ever come to them. So their decisions that they're making are really responsible. They're very fiscally conservative, socially liberal. But I guess the biggest surprise was how negative they felt about themselves. And it's sad because there is absolutely no reason for them to be. They are incredibly passionate and engaged people and consumers. They're the reason we have Toms. A whole set of people believes that when they buy shoes, other people should get shoes too. And so for them to doubt themselves is really sad.
I thought that was one of the biggest takeaways, looking at the language that they use and even the emojis they use. And then when you merge in things like YOLO, and it all really painted a clear picture that millennials were so scared of money. There's just a lot of emotion wrapped around money, almost to the degree where they're blocking it out. It's kind of a grim picture, but then when you look at like adulting, which is like my favorite hashtag, I can feel our generation growing up and taking pride in being responsible, and I thought that was really amazing. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of the emotion around money and what your research showed?
So the emotion around money goes from very negative to very silly and playful. It's what we might call neurotic because it doesn't settle on a particular consistent emotion. Millennials have grown up in a time when money has been uncertain and the economic situation for their own parents. They probably watched parents lose houses, something we don't generally see. So I think that they're nervous. As far as the education debt, this is the most educated generation we've ever seen. It's also the most racially and ethnically diverse. So it's a whole bunch of educated, culturally aware people who doubt themselves. They're looking for a ready partner to teach them how to be good financial decision makers, and I think credit unions are that ready partner. And I think that they're looking to make good choices. And I don't know that we can say that about every generation. We can say that every generation that we've ever measured before have always felt pretty good about themselves, even if they were somewhat apathetic or negative about some institutions. They felt really good about themselves. But here we have a generation that's doubting themselves and concerned about money and finances. So the answer is to give them confidence through information.
What your research has shown and what we know about millennials now, it's totally at odds with a lot of the generational stereotypes.
Correct.
What needs to be said to other generations to help them understand what millennials are actually experiencing, that they're not just these entitled brats that get everything they want?
Well, we first need to think about the fact that every new generation, people are suspicious of. So every every existing generation, when it encounters the new generation, imagines its worst intentions. That's common to sort of vilify the next generation. I think it got some traction here because the behaviors that they were seeing chronically connected to technology, asking lots of questions, asking questions about success. How do I be successful? How do I get X? How do I get Y? Could be read by some people and has been read by some people as entitled. But really, you're turning left. Really, it's a quest for, they have not been able to fail safely. There's this generation that probably didn't get the opportunities to just fall flat on their face with nobody watching. And so, they fail on social media with a ton of people. The stakes are high, and failing hurts, and it's incredibly big, and it doesn't need to be that way, but that's kind of how it is for them. So they're afraid, and they're seeking information and trying to get clarity on how to be successful, and that looks like entitlement to something.
There's Ignacio.
There he is.
There we go.
We're gonna let you.
Only once he takes his glasses off.
Hello. How's it going?
Nice. I'm great. I made it.
We're pretty serious here. We have mics and everything.
Yeah.
So I see.
And you have to run it up your shirt.
No, you don't.
No, you
It's
don't.
fine.
No, you
You're
don't.
fine.
No, please.
You're fine. We're
my
kidding.
goodness.
Okay.
Oh my God.
I ran it up my shirt. I'm just saying. I mean,
Oh, well, you're a professional.
I take this really serious.
I won't trust you from now on.
Yeah, don't trust anything this guy says. So, well, thank you so much, Ignacio, for coming along. We've been grilling Hope for about 25 minutes or so.
Mostly about you.
We've really just talked about Ignacio and his childhood, though we haven't really talked
I don't
about.
know anything
Nice.
Please
Talk
be
about that
rested.
chatter thing that you said.
The Millennial Money Chatter Research.
Right.
So, Ignacio, before we get started, with now you in the car, we now have a full car. This is great. And the world's largest car that I've ever driven in my life.
I think it's a bus.
It is a bus.
Yeah.
We are driving in a bus. Can you just introduce yourself and what you do at university? And
There's cameras everywhere. It's weird.
I know. I'm Ignacio Luri. I'm a PhD student at the University of Arizona. I've been working with Hope for some years now. I'm excited. I was very excited to be presenting my first project with Filene at the Big Bright Minds, and already thinking about a third project.
well, thank you so much for coming to hang out with us.
What were we talking about? We were talking about fear and emotions around money. Millennials and generational sort of stereotypes. And what the data's shown on that.
Ignacio, what are your thoughts on that?
There are a lot of stereotypes, and a part of that, the part that we know might be real, I think it's real, and it's been real for young people in general since time exists, probably. The fact is they are having a hard time, and they're facing economical situation that some of the generations did not experience. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I did tell them that, this idea that they won all these soccer awards just for participating meant that they didn't really get to fail safely. And then with social media, imagine you're dating someone, and you guys, can you imagine? You're millennials, but imagine that you were 15, 16 years old. You're dating somebody and your breakup is viral. Everybody knows exactly
Your text
how it went
exchanges.
down. Yeah. I was
That's high
blessed
stakes.
not to have the internet interfere in that way in my life. I can only imagine how painful it magnifies every potential social failure, and in an echo chamber of everybody you know. And it's just sad, actually. I feel so. They did not get to fail safely. They got to fail publicly, and that might have caused some of the insecurities.
From the conversations we're having, what I'm hearing is that we have a generation that didn't get to fail safely. They failed publicly a lot of the time. And hard.
Sure.
And then have this huge kind of just fear. I don't want to say it's fear of living life, but fear of kind of, I suppose, again, failing publicly, right? And that kind of fear is limiting.
We think, I can speak for Ignacio, and I think we think that. That's where it came from.
Yeah, absolutely. We do, and we try to keep it positive.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it is a high stake situation, and it is very public. And at the same time, they do get support from this same human contact that we're saying can be intimidating, can be a source of fear because everything is very public. It's also, these are shared fears, and that makes them more manageable sometimes.
This shared fear thing I find really interesting because we have a generation now that more people than ever are going to college.
Right.
Right,
They're very self-aware.
Very self-aware. There's this shared fear, but everyone's kind of going to college and then going through kind of college together. And then one of the big things that comes along with that is this concept of student debt.
Yeah.
Right. And so, what are your thoughts on the effect of? Oops, wrong way. I'm just going to keep going straight. What are the effects of kind of student debt? And what are people saying about student debt? And how do you think that's affecting their financial behaviours?